Welcome, everybody, to Stay Curious. I'm your host, Mark Marquette. So glad you joined us on the moon. That's right, we're going to talk about Apollo 17 all show today, all right? If you've got Apollo 17 memory, we want to hear it from you. And we've got Matthew Raj is running the board today while my co-producer for 5.5 years, Marty Winkle, he's chasing that little white ball somewhere nearby here, probably Indian Preserves up north here, where we play golf quite a bit. Yes, we're golfing on December 12th, 2025, and hope that you're having some good weather. I see a lot of bad snow weather coming up in the Midwest and New England area there. So want to say hi to Matthew Raj. How's that? What would he sound like on that UCAC family microphone?
Hey there, Mark. I guess a little bit like this. How are you today?
Good. Just checking all the levels and everything's fine. Looking for our friends to pop on board here. And already got Rosalie, first one in. You win the prize today, Rosalie. But and of course, any moon hoaxers that want to enjoy our show may do so, as long as they keep the comments to themselves. Okay, we're not the American Space Museum for nothing. This is the birth of America's space age in the delivery room of the Apollo moon program to the surface of the moon. The last mission going on right now in 1972. I am hearing an echo in the beginning. We don't know what that echo is, but there is an echo going on. We're aware of that. Hope it goes away. Okay, yes, we're echoing. Don't know why. And there's Steve Jokums up there, Lake County Spaceport. Don't know what the echo is for the...
I noticed a little bit of it yesterday, and I thought it was the TV I was listening to the show on.
No, it went away, and Marty's not here today, and he wouldn't... So I'm going to... You got any suggestions, Matthew? Real quick here as we go live, I'm going to change my gain a little bit. Change my gain. Let me change my direction thing there to see if that does anything. So you can help us up there watching there. Hello, all mostly parked. And you can't tell in the headphones, so. All right, it's still echoing. Doggone it. Something must be plugged in that's not right. I don't want to do an Apollo 17 with the whole echo the whole show, but I may have to. So be it there. What do you think, Matthew?
I'm not seeing anything off in our mic settings or anything different.
Okay.
And it looks like the levels look clean. You're not clicking or anything.
Once you shut off your camera, your microphone.
Mine's off.
I mean,
It's muted.
but not just muted, but
Oh, just okay.
maybe I'm not maybe disengaged there,
Yeah.
and see if that makes a difference. Okay.
Mine's unplugged now.
Check 1, 2, 3. Wow.
Oh, you know what?
It could be my
You
phone.
could be picking up your phone.
That's even worse.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. There. That made a difference.
Okay.
Okay. Not the prox. Check 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank y'all for bearing with me here. Looks like we got it solved there. I'll put my comments over here. Maybe that is too close to the sun. And all right. Like we said, we're going to talk about Apollo 17 on 2:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, December 11th, is when we had the 6th landing on the moon, the 3rd lunar rover. To think about 3 days camping on the moon. And here is the lunar module number 12, named Challenger. America was the orbiting vehicle, the command module with Ron Evans on it. In here is the 3-day camping trip cabin for Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmidt. Evans and Cernan have passed on, but Schmidt is 90 years old to talk about this. And we've had a program yesterday where we talked about my personal encounters with Schmidt, with Bert Dick. And Bert, great job, Bert, on the show. And he's with the National Space Society. And so that does make a difference. Okay. Sounded like I was on the moon, some of you are saying. That's right. Uh, how many pounds of rocks and soil they bring back? 240 pounds. They drove 22 miles on 3 excursions, extravehicular activities. Okay. I'm looking for some notes that I made, doggone it, that I didn't print out. I thought I printed them out. Raj, I've got over on my desk maybe some. No, I have it. I have it. Thank you, buddy. I've got it right there. Part of my program today that I need to talk about. All right. So, season's greetings to everybody. Okay. And wanted to just mention that right here is where that lunar module is. Okay. They're only about 6 kilometers away. Okay. About 3 miles. Okay. This was, and we'll have a question about that here in a little bit. Of how far away. We'll have this question here in a minute. All right, so let's get on with what I want to talk about. Apollo 17 on the moon 53 years ago. I'm going to give a lot of factoids, some things that I've got in my notebook and folder about this from various sources, books, Wikipedia, and so forth and so on. And if we do get bombarded by moon hoaxers, we may pull the plug on anybody commenting, but hopefully not. This is an intelligent show, and I don't think those uneducated moon hoaxers would find us. What do you think, Raj? Ha ha ha. So, and I might have you plug your phone in there in a minute. Okay, if you want to know what's going on right now, and I have it over on my desktop, go to Apollo 17 real time. All right, here I'm going to take the banner off the top up there. Oh, no, that is. Where is the banner? Take the banner off the top. I thought that was P. Okay, and you see that's Apollo 17 real time. The astronauts are getting ready to do their second moonwalk. They're eating breakfast. They're talking to Johnson Space Center before they go out on the lunar rover. And this is where they landed. This screen grab is a shot of where they landed, and we'll see some other pictures of that. The landing site was called the what was it called? Taurus Littrow Valley. And why they choose this place, I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes, because see the mountains on the right and the flat plain with all the craters in it and that lava tube that collapsed. That's actually part of a gigantic asteroid crater that hit the moon 3 billion years ago or more. So watch that. Of course, many of you are so intelligent, you're way ahead of me. You know that the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal is one of the Bibles that we all go to. The transmissions are written there, a lot of extra information there. And I want to check that out. And so check out Apollo Lunar Surface Journal. Okay. And if you there's Santa Claus enjoying a cocktail with some creatures far, far away there. How much fun would that be? Okay, to be an astronaut. This is the artwork of artist Don McKee. And we shared this the other Wednesday, I believe, on a program about his artwork. He was a NASA illustrator and did a lot of these whimsical paintings and sketches and so forth of during the moon race. It was Gemini, then it was Apollo. All right, so there's our great emblem for the insignia, the Greek god Apollo backdrop against the rendering of the stars and stripes with the eagle there. You've got the moon, Saturn, and the galaxy. that's where we're going to go. And in 53 years, we've never gone any further, Matthew. So it is rather disturbing that over a half a century later, to the baby boomer like me, wow, half a century ago, I don't feel like a day over 27. There's our crew. Jack Schmidt on the left. Harrison Jack Schmidt is 90 years old. He does not talk much except the academia. He's very good speaker. You got a chance to see him at like the geology department talk at the University of Tennessee, where I've seen him talk. He loves to talk geology on the moon. Oxygen 3 is what his book that he wrote's all about, not too many personal memoirs. He's a scientist. Ron Evans up above him there is his only spacewalk, as well as Schmidt. Schmidt later became a senator from New Mexico for a 6-year term. Then Gene Cernan, one of the favorites of all. If you've ever met him, I understand he's quite engaging. I didn't, but he passed away a few years ago. There's a great documentary that he did later in life about going to the moon and so forth. Forget the name of that. Marty's not here, but he has a question for us. What is the furthest distance Gene and Jack drove from Lunar Module 12 Challenger? What is the farthest distance that they left the lunar module? And it was out of sight. And Matthew, I'm not sure I would like that. I'd like that to be in sight all the time. But and I'm going to look at my phone here. Do we see anything that we need to bring out there? Did they bring back any samples from that large rock that they saw? Yeah, they did. There's a famous picture of Schmidt up next to a boulder that dwarfs him, and they did bring back pieces of that. And Ace Boogie Stacks has joined us. Lovely Ace Boogie Stacks. And there's Steve Jokum. He's guessing 7 kilometers. Okay. And, I don't want you to use your thumbs to look this stuff up. He's guessing 7 kilometers. We'll get some other guesses in there. Yep, we're definitely compromised by our equipment here, mostly parked. We do the best we can with nonprofit hand-me-down stuff, but grateful for that. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, there's the profile going to the moon. Only like 125 things had to go right at that instance, or the mission would be aborted. And this is now a popular Art Deca piece in your home or office. I've seen the people advertising selling these. The only night launch of the great Saturn V rocket, the mighty Saturn V, performed flawlessly on all the moon flights, and then the launch of Skylab. And our friend Chris Callie, if you see Callie up there, want to say hi to him. Chris's dad did this sketch quickly while he was parked on a station wagon in the back. And my phone's ringing, and from Maryland. And that could be astronaut Tom Jones. I'm not going to answer it, but expecting maybe a call from Tom about Shuttlefest. Anyway, on the back of a station wagon, a quick sketch. The great Paul Callie with his son Chris there doing this in his notebook. Love that. This is how the big shots got to see it. The engineers, Apollo 17, the last going to the moon at night, definitely had to be a big draw for everybody wanting to see things going on there. And then there is the kind of the whole view of the astronauts and the famous picture of the moon there, Earth there. There is Gene Cernan. How would you like to be taking the TWA KSC tours, okay, and you see an astronaut practicing how to drive the moon buggy outside of your bus window there? That's a true picture. Well, here are the 6 landing sites and then a couple Russian landing sample missions, all right, that they did. Actually, 3 sample missions after Apollo. And there's Mercurium on the right, is very easily seen naked eye. All these Maria or their lava seas were seen naked eye, okay. And Luna, the Mercurium right there, is easy to see in the upper right-hand corner. All right. Mare Serenitatis, Sea of Serenity, and Mare Imbrium, Sea of Rain. Okay, uh, is were impacts caused by asteroids that hit the moon when it was basically uh, cooling down from a molten lava stage. All right, and so we wanted to sample of on Apollo 17 interior of the moon that was thrown up by this asteroid. And that's what these mountains and so forth at Taurus Littrow were all about, was the clumps that were dug up out of the interior. South Massif and North Massif are nothing more than gigantic clumps drilled out of Mare Serenitatis when it was formed there. Okay. And there's the landing site is shown with the right there in the middle with the white arrow. All right, and they went they went to this to the right and to the left on these things, but all these little craters that were impacted after this impact came later, and they also showed a little bit of the inside geology. And here's what geologist maps look like of this thing of the Taurus Littrow Valley. Okay, and again, another spectacular view, okay, taken not during the landing, they're too busy. This is a photo taken by Ron Evans, okay, where they landed. Isn't that incredible, Raj? To think from the flat plains of Tranquility Base that was like landing in the middle of an Iowa cornfield that had already been mowed down, all right, or let's say Hancock County, Ohio, where I grew up, cornfield are just as flat, to somewhere that's like the Appalachian Mountains looking for a flat area in there. Look at that crater in the upper right up there, that fresh crater dug out stuff. So this is what they wanted to find, was a lot of stuff that had been erupted out of the lunar surface. Now we have evidence from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and the Israeli orbiter not Israeli, India's moon orbiter, that you can see the descent stage of LEM number 12. You see footprints like snow prints. Those of you experiencing that now, and a big layout there. So it's fabulous to see these pictures. Also, a cool site to spend some Christmas time, holiday time. If you're full and don't want to watch whatever's on TV and don't want to listen to the in-laws and the outlaws talking, go back to the spare bedroom and get up the Project Apollo archive, okay, after you do the Apollo Moon Journal. The Apollo Project is a Flickr vehicle where they have all of the film out of those Hasselblad cameras in order, like it's a film strip, or in my terminology, a contact print in my photography. Even the leader at the beginning of every piece of film, they shot in a studio in Johnson Space Center. Those in the corner are studio lights going off on a test pattern so that the lab can correct for the colors once they make the prints. All right. You got all kinds of data on this for photography for the pictures when they come back. And you'll see pictures that were flashed like this. In other words, this picture somehow got exposed to light a little bit and ruined it. That's Jack Schmidt jumping into the seat there and showing you how he probably jumped back. Gino had the camera, said, "Jack, go ahead and get in that lawn chair, Jack," and there he is throwing himself in there. Some cool things you see above his visor has a little shade flap on it. That was a new addition. And there's another picture that's flashed, okay, of the ALSEP package. All right, that film has been exposed to light somewhere down the line. Don't know how or why. The inside pictures, there's Ron Evans, much ignored, as is most command module pilots, as the Moonwalkers get all the love, and that's Schmidt behind him. And here's Gino looking at one of the what they were going to do on the EVA that day. This is how astronauts. This is their smart tablet. Is what this is. This is their smart tablet or computer on board, what they would be looking at, or what we're supposed to be doing tests at this time and another. So looking at a couple of you all there. Lovely, got the Marcoy 7676 there. Okay, uh, and Marcoy, you can stop right now. We don't want to read all of your stuff there that's not pertaining to Apollo 17, please. We don't need to tolerate that. This is our program, and you could go somewhere else if you're not wanting to hear about Apollo 17. And I mean that. Okay, I want to show you what is a beautiful thing as a photographer about this website here, okay, called Project Apollo Archive, is that they show you that mostly the film is overexposed, meaning they took too long of an exposure and got too much light on it. All right, this is one of the pictures taken out the window of all the stuff that they left on the moon. That is the personal life support system on the moon of one of the astronauts. I don't think the moon boots are in this one, but I'm going to go do a little program about Gino brought back his moon boots. But Raj, you can take this photo. It's owned by nobody except the U.S. government. All right. And you can do whatever you want in a Photoshop with it to make it look like this. 3, 2, 1. That's what it really looks like to the naked eye. This is what the photograph looked like. And those of you that aren't photographers would say, yeah, there's nothing there. I ain't going to look at that picture. And then I enhanced it with just some simple slide tools. And this is what it looks like. Okay. It was overexposed. And a lot of moon pictures and a lot of space pictures aren't exposed right because nobody takes the time to do it. But look at that. All right. And what do you notice, Raj? Yep, we're humans. We leave our trash everywhere. Okay. I did a program and I'll do it again. Something like 9 tons of trash is on the moon. All right. But you see where the lunar rover was driven out there? The lunar rover's parked in the middle. The lunar rover's right there. That's the lunar rover ready to take the picture of the liftoff. All right. But I hope I impress upon you that, things aren't always what they seem when you're looking at them. And also, this is a real Photoshop, just intensities, contrast, exposure, eliminate the highlights. The highlights taken out of here is a big deal. You take that highlight bar and slide the highlights, you'll see your sky pop in real blue and stuff like that. But this is what it is posted on Flickr. This is what I did to that picture. And now, technically, it's mine. People do this all the time with Hubble telescope pictures. They enhance them. Moon pictures, they'll do collages and put them together. And you have created that with American dollars, of tax dollars. So, all right. What's the next pretty picture I have? There's one of the astronauts doing their thing. Looks like drilling. By the way, all of you wanting to get power tools for Christmas or have power tools, you can owe those power tools technology to the American Space Program. This is how we drilled like 4-foot sections rods into the moon. There is a picture I did not enhance it, but looks like could have used some. All right, one of the astronauts has walked pretty far away in a boulder field there. They had black and white and color cameras, film packs, let's say, in their Hasselblad cameras. There's a panorama taken, okay, by one of the astronauts. Me and my shadow, both astronauts. That must be Schmidt because I don't see the red on his legs, red stripes on his legs, his arms, all right. They deployed a very big antenna, okay, which was something not done on Apollo 11 or 12. 12 did the first big antenna. 11 didn't. They used the antenna on the. There's Old Glory. There's Jack Schmidt. You could tell that's him because his helmet would have a red stripe on it if it was Commander Gene Cernan. All right. Love pictures like this. The astronauts did not have enough time to take a good photography lesson. Let's put it that way. They're smashing the Hasselblad cameras with these big bulky gloves. But this is an artsy-fartsy picture for sure. All right. Again, that I can see the stripe at the very top. up there. That let me show you the stripe I'm looking at. Can't assume that you all are seeing what I'm seeing. This stripe right there's the red stripe in a black and white photo. So that's Cernan. Okay. And Schmidt took that photo. I love those. I love that photo. That's cool photos. That'd be a great sketch, I think. And we'll see some artwork here. There's some. This is one of these big rocks. I was going to say he laid his hammer on it on another picture, but this is like the shelf of a rock. See where they scrape out some stuff there. Right now, they're getting ready to go to the moon. This is the second EVA. They're getting ready to walk on the moon, a second EVA. I was listening an hour ago when they were waking up. John Young of Apollo 16 said, Gene and Jack, we've got a solution. The fender broke. The fender came off and was spewing up all over their suits. Look how dirty Jack's suit is already, his feet. Like a rooster tail of moon dirt all over. And it's finer than talcum powder. So they had to come up with a solution, and they came up with this to take two charts that they weren't going to use anymore, had used on the previous spacewalk, and with John Young called it gray tape. I can't believe it. He called it gray tape instead of duct tape. Okay, but he said, we're going to do this with gray tape. All right. Well, that gray tape's exposed to 200 above zero. All right. It's not boiling or anything like that. It's just things don't act like that in the heat on the moon because there's no atmosphere. See, it's just heat. So there's no moisture or anything to melt it or condense it or anything. Very interesting, isn't it? Whoa. Look at that shot on the edge of the moon. All right. Parked there. And this is the famous area where they discovered orange. You can hear Gene, one of the famous sound bites of they were on the moonwalks for 7 hours, 3 times. So there's over 20 hours of video that you can watch of them on the moon. This was a fissure. All right. This was a vulcanization process where there was volcano stuff spewing out of there. When they brought this back under a microscope, it was glass beads. Okay. But you hear the geologists say, hey, I see it, orange soil, when he got out of here. Okay. I see orange soil. And Gene said, wait till I get there. Don't touch it till I get there. And I think that's kind of funny. He's telling a geologist, don't mess with it until I get there and see it. I'm going to grab some notes here because I want to talk about this rock. I don't see that there. So how we doing there? Look at our chat here. They may have called it gray tape because NASA doesn't like publicized brands. That's right, Carlton, calling it duct tape on there. I'm going to look back at a few of my notes here to see something of interest. This was the final. This rock was one of the biggest finds on the moon total. Okay. 3 sites were made the final consideration for Apollo 17: Alphonsus Crater, Gassendi Crater, and Taurus Littrow Valley. Mission planners took into consideration the primary objectives for Apollo 17: obtaining old highlands material from a substantial distance from Mare Imbrium, which we had samples of that lunar impact I showed you, sampling material from young volcanic activity, less than 3 billion years old, and having minimal ground overlap with the orbital ground tracks of 15 and 16 to maximize new data obtained by the instruments in the SIM, the scientific bay of the command module. So Taurus Littrow was predicted to have samples of old highland material and remnants of landslides that occurred, and it ended up being all that. Okay. And as soon as I find who trained these astronauts was Phil Silvers, which was Phil Silvers. What was Silver's first name? I forget. Phil Silvers is a comedian from the 50s and 60s. Schmidt was running the mission on the surface, basically. Who's been to Big Bend National Park in Texas? I have. Stargazing. That's where the Texas Star Party is, at Big Bend National Park. They had geology field trips there. Okay. And part of the reason Apollo 17 was scheduled for December 1972 was to make it occur after the presidential election. Okay. Ensuring that if there was a disaster, it would have no effect on President Nixon's reelection campaign. Okay. How about that for some politics being made in there? Of course, always politics, politics. All right, They had some real serious cosmic ray experiments. They had 5 pocket mice were implanted with radiation monitors under their scalps, okay, to gauge interplanetary radiation. Those were on the command module. And they had some new gravitometers and so forth on board. The Apollo 17's scientific instrument bay was very interesting. How about this? Throughout the Apollo lunar missions, the crew members observed light flashes that penetrated through their closed eyelids. They all talk about, and ISS astronauts talk about that. The flashes were described as streaks or specks of light, were usually observed by astronauts while the spacecraft was darkened during sleep period. These flashes, while not observed on the lunar surface, would average about 2 per minute and were observed by the crews during the trip out to the moon and back to Earth and in lunar orbit. And I've heard ISS astronauts talk about that, as well as shuttle astronauts talk about that. The Apollo 17 conducted an experiment, also conducted on 16, with the objective of linking these light flashes with the cosmic rays. As part of the experiment, one astronaut wore a device that recorded time, strength, and path of these things. Evidence supports the theory that these flashes occur when charged particles travel through the retina in the eye. Cosmic rays hitting your retina as they pass through your body. How about that? By the way, the crew was awoken here about 2 hours ago by the Ride of the Valkyries. Cernan and Schmidt began their trip there out after getting on there. But the Ride of the Valkyries was Schmidt used to play that for his roommate in college to get him up to go to classes. The third moonwalk starts tomorrow at 5:25 p.m. Okay. Today's moonwalk starts in about an hour, about the same time. So you can watch that. It's very cool. Believe me, you won't regret any of that moment that you watch that. And I bet that's over here. Aha! All right. This is Troglodyte 76535, a 4.5 billion year old coarse grain composed of olivine plagioclase that was brought up in a rake on there. So this is, and it also revealed the magnetism in this rock, that the moon doesn't have a magnetic core now, but it must have had one to generate that type of dynamo billions of years ago. There's the famous orange soil that was worth the whole trip almost. It really was. To find that this was venting fissures and how many millions of years it had laid there. All right, let's look at some of the pretty pictures here as we think about the furthest distance Apollo 17 astronauts Cernan and Schmidt traveled here. Lunar module number 12, the last built on there. Just gorgeous pictures. Of course, they want to land what would be equivalent to about 9 in the morning. All right, but when they're spending a couple days on the moon, the sun gets higher in the sky, so they witness some high, hot altitude there. There's a lunar module in the back there. Underestimated how fabulous these rovers worked, and nobody doubts that if we go up there and put some new batteries in them, Raj, we could plug it in and take it away right then. Okay, Joining late, Stangy, you're penalized, okay? But we understand that. Yes, Lee Silver, of course, I can depend on uh, uh, Steve Jokums, even the Dr. Lee Silver of Caltech, not Phil Silvers of the Phil Silvers show back in the 50s on TV. This is the pop off where they parked that lunar rover. Oh, there's where they parked it for the liftoff. That's why that picture's in there. Still sitting there with the wheels cocked. Okay. Astronauts left some personal things on there. I do know that Jim Irwin left a Bible in his pilot's seat. He was very affected by his mission and faith. And he came back to Earth, and his quest was to find Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat, and made many trips there to try to find remnants of Noah's Ark. And he died at a young age of 59 of a heart attack, and he had several heart attacks. That's Apollo 16. That they were walking on the moon, their juice bag wouldn't flow, and they actually went him and John Young, John Young's work, but his didn't. Imagine being in the desert, hot for 5 or 6 hours, and you can't have a sip of water. And they think this may have compromised his heart, though NASA won't admit it. There is the liftoff of final liftoff on the moon, a Challenger heading back up to America. This is the Challenger getting close to the command module. Of course, Ron Evans. This buckling, Apollo 16 had the back of it where the exhaust is actually buckled up some of this titanium steel there. And there's the command module with this SIM bay, science instrument bay there. And there is the surface there on there. Okay. This is the descent stage taken by the lunar module there. True evidence that we were there. We'll even get down closer and see that as the years go by. And there's the lunar rover's camera that was controlled from Houston and left on for hours afterwards. I'm not sure when they shut them off. The batteries had to go out. That's what the problem was. Of course, it didn't have a solar panel up there. They should have left a solar panel on it there so we could fire it up and see how this deteriorated over time. Because think of this, there's still spent fuel in there. Okay, maybe over time, and then it gets 200 below zero for 2 weeks, 200 above zero for 2 weeks, and you have years of that happening. This doesn't look like that 53 years later. I'd love to see what it looked like. Maybe that caused some of the residual hypergolic fuels to blow up. Okay. Or other things that could go wrong on there. Things break down by the contraction and expansion of metal over time. That's what we can't wait to see when we go back. And not a photograph, but a beautiful picture by Chris Calley of our artwork there. And I'm going to see some artwork here. And Raj, let's do an experiment. Plug in the USAC family microphone there, and see if that is something. If I'll start echoing again, because we had the echo yesterday, and I didn't have the phone nearby. Okay. So
my mic is
start echoing, folks. Let us know right away as I talk about some of our artist friends here. And Raj, you say, what have you learned so far, Raj, that you didn't know?
Well, one of the favorite things that I learned was that not only were, I know some things were left behind here and there, some mission related, but I did not know that any, religious artifacts were left behind. So that's a cool thing to learn. I know Christmas is right around the corner, and of course we have historic, Christmas time Bible passages being read in space and whatnot. So that kind of fits the theme here.
Right.
And also the photo image editing, the ability, to really, just by messing with the contrast and, working with the highlights there, that photo originally was so blown out. And then the one that you edited was so vibrant and you could get all the grain
Okay, thank you for letting us do that experiment. We are getting echoing.
Okay.
So you can unplug that. And we'll have to get Trekkie Techie in here, Jessica, to fix that echoing. Thank you, Michael Bruno. He said echoing with an exclamation point. And thank you, massive echoing, says Steve. Boogie Sacks gives me a lightning bolt. And Dave Stengy, thank you. Horrible echoes as he turned his mic on. All right. That's right. But we're all good now, guys. Thumbs up. I see Cliff Watson's got his thumbs up down there in Australia. So, Chris Callie, another fabulous friend that I've made here, like you all at the American Space Museum. Uh, and so everything sounds good there. I don't see the just mark by Dave Stengy. Turned off, back to normal. All right, that's what we want to know. Okay. And that's how we fly here at the American Space Museum. You see a lot of, I'm sure all of you all enjoy a lot of YouTube space podcasts, and I do myself. But this might be the only unpolished one out there. Okay, and you tell everybody you can see Mark pick his nose, scratch his head, and do all kinds of crazy stuff with his staff on this thing here. So hope I don't pick my nose, but it does itch from time to time. Fabulous artwork. Gene Cernan, Last Man on the Moon. Chris Callie, love you, bro. This is I believe, I'm not sure who this is. I got a couple other artists on here. This might be Ron Woods. This is Chris again, his tribute to the last footprints on the moon. Okay. I know this is Ron Woods, and this is a low resolution, one of his watercolors of Gene Cernan on the moon, taken by Schmidt. The Earth is in the background. Doug Forrest has this excellent shot of an astronaut coming down. This is pencil, folks, and I don't have the time to do all this right here. My gosh, Doug, that is some detailed effort and using the white in a way that only a true artist like Doug Forrest can, using the white on the astronaut. Isn't that cool, Raj?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Again, another Doug Forrest that you can go to Apollo-Arts. Here, you'll see that in a minute. Here's his lunar module in Earth orbit. I believe this is his tribute to Apollo 8. There's how to see some of Chris's artwork. You can go back and freeze frame this. CallieSpaceArt.com, not .co. Doug Forrest at Apollo-Arts.com, and Ron Woods has his things displayed on Novaspace.com. The Poor family up there. Marty's trivia question. What is the furthest distance Gene and Jack drove from lunar module number 12 Challenger? And the best guess we got so far is, of course, Steve Jokums. You can't get nothing by him. And it is 4.7 miles, which is 6.7 kilometers. The record for any planetary body exploration. This was at Station 2 near South Massif, all right, utilizing the lunar roving vehicle under a safety walk-back limit restraint. So they did have a walk-back limit restraint of about 5 miles. They figured you could walk 5 miles on the moon back to the lunar module, okay, with the amount that you had exerted in your supplies. Now, I don't want to walk 5 miles on Earth, okay? So 5 miles on the moon, all right, like you just think desert and you're in a spacesuit that's keeping you alive, and all of a sudden the lunar rover breaks down and you got to walk 5 miles, all right? I'm not sure how long that'd take. Raj, you're kind of experienced at walking. What would just tell me off without the, you could walk about 2 miles an hour?
I think it really depends. Being on the moon it sounds like it'd be a whole different game. No?
Yeah, right. Being on the moon at 1/6 gravity would take you
Yeah.
quicker in theory. Yeah. So, and here is our backdrop here. This is actually a photograph taken at 3 kilometers, okay, only 2 miles away. All right, this is about 2 miles away, this photograph here. Okay. Still, I'm like going, you sure we're not, See, it's deceiving because the moon is a 1/4 the size of the Earth, so the globe is smaller. The horizon looks bigger in the distance, but also this photograph was taken with a 500 millimeter Hasselblad lens. All right, a beautiful piece of glass that Jack Schmidt took this picture, and it's about 3 kilometers, 0.6 miles per kilometer. There you got about 1.8 miles, about 2 miles away. Now the limb is 17 feet tall. I mean, no, I take that back. The limb is 21 feet tall, about that, a little over 20 feet tall. All right. So this picture is also published a lot in a big, like it's tilted a lot. That's the way it is in the frame because he's holding this heavy lens and he might have tilted it a little bit left or right. He being Jack Schmidt. I'll ask him next time I see him. He's 90 years old. There's plenty of time to bump into him, right? I did meet him several times, and like I said, very congenial. Doesn't want to talk too much about his feelings. He wants to talk all day about getting back to the moon. His talk 15 years ago at the University of Tennessee, Jack Schmidt, to a geology group that the public was invited to, was, I know how to fix NASA. And everybody's on the edge of their chairs 15 years ago. I know how to fix NASA after the end of the shuttle era and so forth. How? You fire everybody over 40 years old. And he was serious about that. Once you're over 40, you're in the Peter principle, just pushing your status quo job, and you're not going and enriching your mind much, maybe at seminars and so forth. And he says it takes a young mind, the young people on the cutting edge of the young things going on, not a bunch of old people going back and relearning things. So not to find better jobs for them, but yeah, Schmidt, quite a cool guy. Chris Callie, as we're looking at one of the distant pictures taken, the other pictures, when they got further away, they couldn't see it. Okay. Man, that would creep me out. Also, what you notice here, see the light area around, let me do it this way. Let's do it this way. No, let's do it this way, Mark. See all this light up here around the lunar module, that light soil above my head right in here on either side? That is from the exhaust hovering over looking for the landing site. So, closer to and you see it more over here on this picture. This is all lighter than anywhere because it is exhaust plumes that blew away all of that dust and exposed the lighter soil underneath there. See what a moon picture can tell you? Now I'm not a trained eye, but I read about this stuff. All right. Chris Callie's great tribute to the lunar rover. And now we're going to talk a minute. This is not an artist I know. It's not Callie. It's not, but I'd like this to talk about the lunar boots to end our program today. And thank you all. I don't see anybody not respecting our program today after I had to get on that one guy there. Okay. We're going to see them here. What a cool picture that is. Good concept there. But it shows the detail I'm going to talk about. These are the last human-worn objects to touch another world. When the crew of Apollo 17, the last moon landing, returned to Earth, Commander Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt brought back 4 items that had not been planned to return to the moon. Instead of tossing their lunar shoes onto the surface along with their personal life support systems, as had been done on 5 previous missions, Cernan and Schmitt made the decision to bring their overshoes back to them. Pictured here and on display at the Smithsonian are Gene Cernan's boots. They made the last human footprints on the surface. These footprints remain 50 years later. They'll be there 50,000 years later. They might be there 50 million years later, as the lunar surface with no atmosphere is bombarded by micrometeorites. What's a micrometeorite? The dust off of this microphone is a micrometeorite, okay? at 30,000 miles an hour, it makes an impact. So I didn't know about Harrison Schmidt's, and I've never heard of them being on display. The silicone soles were not the only response to concerns about conducting lunar heat inside the spacecraft. The lunar overshoes had insoles made from felt, consisting of fiberglass and Teflon, similar to the outer layer of the spacesuit. The inner soles were lined with the inside with Teflon-coated beta cloth to create a fire-resistant encapsulation of the feet. All right, between the inner and outer layers of beta cloth were aluminized mylar, think mylar balloons, non-woven Dacron, and beta marcasite kapton, a laminated film. These lightweight layers not only add to the thermal protection to the astronauts, but they also formed a penetration layer for the boots. Any fast-traveling particles that penetrated the outer layer of the boots would break apart, lose momentum, and come to rest among the 21 layers of the interior. This is the time-honored method of protecting astronauts and satellites today. All right, it also had something called chromal R, and let's look at Gene's boots there that are the real deal. We've got some replicas on display here, and they vary, but we sold a training replica used actually for training for $30,000 on auction one time, just one boot. CHROMEL-R is a high chromium content stainless steel fabric that is woven from steel threads. In 1968, it was $2,500 a yard. That is $20,000 a yard today or more. A very expensive fabric. They decided that they would the base of the backpacks, personal life support wasn't permanently fixed to the spacesuit, could cut and cause abrasion, so they used this chromal R on Apollo suits. Also around the hands on EVA gloves. Astronauts would be handling sharp rocks and geological tools, so they had to have protection there. And of course, the feet had to have protection there. Now, it is said that there we go, another close up of those boots there. Look at that with the dirt on them and so forth. That is, like I said, the toes are silicone. All right. And consisted of fiberglass and Teflon there. It turns out that Cernan maintained it had been his decision to bring the boots back to Earth, despite the precedent and operational plan of his mission. His decision not only was historic, but also scientific value. All right. Cernan didn't think it'd be 50 years before the next humans would step on the surface of the moon. He had hoped to see it in his own lifetime. He died in 2017. All right, 8 years ago. But he did bring back the material evidence that footprints we see in so many images from the moon program were indeed made by boots that the astronauts wore. Take that. But the significance, if you look closely at the overshoes, you'll see that the gray and black marks, and they look dirty. This is lunar dust. As a policy, National Air and Space Museum doesn't clean objects of evidence for use. They vacuumed American dirt or Earth dirt off of things. Well, the lunar regolith, the coating of dust that covers the moon, has made its distinction between Earth dirt and lunar dirt very easy for the people that handle these things. Lunar regolith is very aggressive. It doesn't merely sit on the surface of a material. It hooks on and embeds itself into it. It is like tiny microscopic diatoms, sharp, like, and it actually feels itchy like fiberglass when the astronauts had it on their skin between the EVAs. The lunar dust that you see on the blue silicone would not be brushed off even if we tried. Okay. And the blue silicone looks very pristine. Well, I don't have a picture of that. Using a laboratory microscope, they can find deep in the fibers of the Teflon-coated fiberglass that covers the surface of the spacesuits. Even more remarkable, Material scientists have examined that chromal R fabric of Harrison Schmidt's boots with extremely high resolution microscopy and seen that the lunar dust has gone so far as to erode the stainless steel fibers of the fabric. So this will help us build stronger lunar boots, which I hope they already have because Artemis is going back here in 3 or 4 years, right? So this was a big help to bring these back, to realize that there was some abrasive going on just 21 hours of surface use on the moon, 3 7-hour spacewalks. So there you have it, to end hopefully some things that you didn't know about the lunar boots. And I hope you enjoyed our Apollo 17 program here on Friday, December 12th, 2025, 53 years after the fact. There is Chris Callie's beautiful montage of Gino in the lunar module. Look at him covered with dirt. This is after their last mission in there. Okay. Just awesome to share this with all you. So let me look. Don't have anything else to talk about. And thank you all for partaking in our Apollo 17 show today. We have got several guests on Monday looking to. I've got guests Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. All right. Monday, I'm hoping to have Elizabeth Schneider here. Tuesday is Bob Granath is going to give us a space lesson on Apollo 8, I think. And then we're going to have the president of Via Space, our local hometown rocket company, here, Kevin Loudermilk, on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we'll start getting in La La Land with the holidays. And we'll, of course, maybe just open mic and give a lot of love to all you out there. So appreciate that. So thank you all for watching today. Thank you for Matthew Raj for pinch hitting for Marty Winkle out there on the golf course on December 12th here on the Space Coast of Florida. So hope you all enjoy your weekend. And I think it's a time for me to think about an astronaut saying in this holiday rush of hubbub of getting here and there and doing this and that. And that advice I get from astronauts all the time is slow down to speed up. And that's what I'll be doing. Mark Marquette, until we see you again to bridge the space between us.